What's going on, folks? We have a great show for you today. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president against Joe Biden as a registered Democrat, and RFK is a legend. I don't care what you think of the guy, but he wrote a book exposing Anthony Fauci, has educated me a lot on the vaccine industry, and has been one of the leading voices calling out Big Pharma for decades. Will this make a splash in the election and culture? I hope so. We'll talk about it. Thomas Massie, my favorite congressman because he was telling the truth about the lockdowns, the CARES Act. He talks about stuff like raw milk and farmers. He seems like one of the only good guys in Washington. He came out recently to basically endorse DeSantis and encourage him to run for president.
He also reminded me, which is true, he's more popular than me in Kentucky. And he said it would be the end of me. And I tried to tell him this was constitutional and we needed to do it this way, and it would still pass anyway because most people were for it. We just couldn't break the Constitution today. And he repeated, you know, I'm coming at you like you've never seen, never in your life before have you seen the way in which I will come at you.
Candace Owens even responded to my tweet and said that she thinks Thomas Massie should be president. Pretty cool. We're going to talk about all that. And apparently there's a new COVID nasal vaccine for your nose. We will obviously talk about that. And a catfight has emerged between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer over their support of Donald Trump. Of course, they both love Donald Trump, but they're not happy with each other. And I feel like talking about it, and I get to talk about what I want, so we're gonna talk about it. It's gonna be a fun episode, folks. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's live episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. We're going to talk about RFK Jr. running for president against Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. Then we're going to talk about Thomas Massie endorsing Ron DeSantis and encouraging him to run. And then at the end, we're going to talk about Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene, a catfight that I just find interesting I want to talk about. But first, I just want to cover this COVID nasal vaccine real quick. It says the New York Post said there's a COVID nasal vaccine spray coming out that shows a stronger immune response in the study. It could be a game changer. According to the New York Post, the nasal COVID vaccine that's being tested is live attenuated vaccine, which means it contains a live but weaker form of the coronavirus. It works by stopping the virus in the upper airway before it can travel further into the body. The researchers used Syrian hamsters for their vaccine testing. What is a Syrian hamster? Is that a hamster from Syria? Are there different races of hamsters? Let's just say I'll pass. I won't be shooting the live virus into my nose, but sounds like a good time for some Syrian hamsters. Good luck with that. I'm out. Before I talk about RFK, Thomas Massie, DeSantis, Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Laura Loomer, Candace, others, I want to say this, and I want to make this clear to my audience. I've said it in a picture post. I've kind of mentioned it at the end of podcasts, but I want to do it at the beginning. I'm not endorsing anybody, any rumor you hear, because I know emotions are very high. You know, a lot of people who like Trump are freaking out at people who are not like just total fanboys or political operatives or paid or going to dinners. And there's a lot of talk, and that's fine. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. But the truth is, I'm not endorsing DeSantis. I just want to be clear about this. I'm not endorsing Donald Trump. I'm not going to condemn somebody because somebody might not invite me to a dinner. I'm calling it exactly like I see it, and I can't be influenced by money or donor money or social pressure. There's a lot of social pressure going on, and I'm not working for a campaign. A lot of the people that I've noticed in the Republican sphere that are pointing the finger at everyone else, they're people that are working directly for the campaign. They're professional political operatives. In some cases, they are just such good friends with people that they don't want to tell the truth about it because it's just too politically inconvenient. I'm not that type of person. And I just wanted to say this before we get into the story. Some have said, most understand what I'm saying and they appreciate it. Agree to disagree, I have no problem. But to people who are saying, oh, you're a fence sitter, that's not fence sitting. Fence sitting would be if the guy you like infringes on the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, starts doing socialism, starts doing all this stuff that you don't agree with, and then you just don't talk about it because you like the person. you've become a politician. So I'm not fence sitting. I'm just not a politician. I'm not a political operative. I'm not paid off. I'm not working for a campaign. There's nothing fence sitting about that. The opposite is fence sitting, when you just become a politician. And you have to understand, a lot of Republican influencers, they've become politicians. They've become professional political operatives. They've been lobbied by money. Sometimes they've been lobbied by social circles. They understand that if they ever crossed the guy that, butters their biscuits, so to say, that they're going to be in a lot of trouble in their career. So I'm just being very clear about this. I'm not sitting on the fence. Sitting on the fence is when you don't want to talk about actual policy and values that you claim to stand up for, because you'd rather play as a politician. And that's what a lot of Republican influencers have become. Not me. I'm going to call it exactly like I see it, and I'm just letting you guys know that. On that note, I want to talk about RFK Jr., because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a Democrat. He is the, son of RFK. I believe the nephew of John Kennedy. He's from the classic Kennedy family, who have been some of the most fortunate and unfortunate American families simultaneously. They've done a lot, and there have been, sadly, a lot of assassinations in that family. I like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Some people like him, some people don't. Some people don't trust him. Some people think because he's a Democrat, he's just not worth listening to. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has taught me a lot about what I know about the vaccine injury. So I just got to show respect to the people that educated me and inspired me, because that's not really done a lot. And I have to say that without Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and people who showed me his videos years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do the reporting I did in 2020 when I told people about the CARES Act and the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and the liability. All that information and knowledge I got to drop to my audience early on to educate people. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. indirectly or directly, I'm just saying, I've never met him, but online, he's who educated me. So if you appreciate that information that I've shared, a lot of that, not all, but a lot of it, I learned from listening to Robert F. Kennedy talk very honestly and openly about the vaccine injuries or vaccine industry. I guess that was a typo, but it works anyway. And, the government and how they work together. So I fact-checked everything he said. I looked it up. And every time they called him an anti-vaxxer, that's what they call him in the media. He's an anti-vaxxer. He's an anti-vaxxer. When you listen to him, he says he's for safe vaccines. He just feels like the way that they test these vaccines and the liability clauses they have make them all, in his opinion, unsafe. So he's not really against the product themselves. He just doesn't agree with how they're testing them and rolling them out to the public. So he's getting smeared by the Mockingbird media. He's gotten kicked off of plenty of social media. He's very heavily censored. And, now he's throwing his hat in the race. As many people have commented on Facebook and YouTube, I'm reading a few. He wrote a book about Anthony Fauci. I own it. I believe it's called The Real Anthony Fauci. And say what you want about RFK, he's done more to expose Anthony Fauci than 99.99% of the Democratic Party. Actually, the Republican Party. It's like he does more. Like, the Republican Party works with Anthony Fauci, and then they act like they're fighting him. He actually really wrote an entire book exposing Fauci. So, he might be weak on a few issues. I think he's a strong environmentalist. He cares about animals. He cares about nature. I don't agree with RFK Jr. on everything, but I'm very, very glad that he's entering the race. I think he's only going to help culturally. He has a lot of information. And this is where, left wing, right wing, red, blue just doesn't work. Because I'm going to talk in a second about other stuff, but it's like he's not Republican or he's not conservative, so I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm not saying you shouldn't or you can't. I'm not even saying RFK has a chance. He probably doesn't. But the point I'm saying is this. It's like if Trump runs around the country selling vaccines, saying they're so great, they're the greatest human achievement, he's still lying for Big Pharma in this year because he's the vaccine guy. He's the one who rushed him out. He's the one who did Operation Warp Speed Socialism. And it's like a Trump steak to Donald Trump. He doesn't want to give it up. Objectively, RFK Jr. is 1,000 times better than Donald Trump on that subject. Doesn't mean he's better on climate change. Doesn't mean he's better on foreign policy. But if you just play team politics and say, this is my guy and I agree with everything he does and I don't like him because he's a Democrat, you're missing out on the truth. And the truth is RFK Jr. runs circles around Donald Trump with Big Pharma in every sense of the word. Trump took $1 million from Pfizer, and so did the GOP of the Republican Party in Kentucky. They're all being paid by Pfizer. And the funny part is when I bring that up, people get more mad at me to bring that up than they do with the person who took $1 million from Pfizer. It's like Republicans end up getting more mad at me for saying the company you hate is paying off your politicians. They don't want to hear it because they like certain politicians so much. Isn't that interesting? Oh, who paid you to say that, Anomaly? Who paid me to say that Pfizer gave Donald Trump and Kentucky Republicans $1 million each? Nobody. Like, Pfizer paid them. I'm not being bought off. They are. But you don't want to hear that, right? That's why politics has become a joke. Left-wingers don't care about lobbying money. Republicans cry. Like, it's become a big clown show. So, you know, with that being said, I want to read a tweet, from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he said something very interesting on Twitter. This is a big thread. He said, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this week said, the collapse of the U.S. influence over Saudi Arabia and the kingdom's new alliances with China and Iran are painful emblems of the abject failure of the neocon strategy of maintaining U.S. global hegemony with aggressive projections of military power. China has displaced the American empire by deftly projecting, instead, economic power. Over the past decade, our country has spent trillions bombing roads, ports, bridges, and airports. China spent the equivalent building the same across the developing world. The Ukraine war is the final collapse of the neocon short-lived American century. The neocon projects in Ukraine and Iraq have cost $8.1 trillion, hollowed out our middle class, made a laughingstock of the U.S. military power and moral authority, pushed China and Russia into an invincible alliance, destroyed the dollar as the global currency, cost millions of lives, and done nothing to advance democracy or win friendships or influence. I mean, it's a brilliant statement. I don't care what you think about the guy. That's a brilliant statement. And this is the thing. We talked about it a little bit at the end of my podcast last week, but I want to talk about pride, humility, anger, pride and anger being sins. The left wing got really stupid and foolish because they think they're so smart. The left wingers, oh, I have a PhD. Oh, I did gender bender studies at Berkeley. Who cares? The reason left wingers have become so stupid and so foolish and so easy to fool. Left wingers are the easiest to fool. Why? Because they have too much pride and too much hate and too much anger. Right-wingers need to check themselves before they wreck themselves, because as much as everybody's like, oh, we're so different, Donald Trump, we're such truthers, look at the Iraq war, look at the Afghanistan war. It wasn't that long ago that George Bush was conning everybody into the Patriot Act. Oh, we got to go fight Muslims, but they were passing legislation to spy on you. Republicans just fell for this stuff 10 years ago, and they're falling for it again. So I see left wing, right wing. It's like Coke and Pepsi. Everybody thinks they're so great, and I just want to drink a coconut water. I don't want to play games with like a bunch of clowns, but people want to. So you get what you put in. And the same way we see that the left has fallen so far because they're so prideful and so angry, and they have such this like, I'm so much better than you because I'm liberal. I see the same mistakes happening in the Republican Party. So we have to be self-aware as well, because we'll fall right back into a trap. They know how to trick both sides, folks. You want to trick a left-winger? Throw a rainbow flag on a freaking bomb. You want to trick a right-winger? Throw an American flag on a bomb. You know what I'm saying? Say someone said something anti-Semitic or something. There's all these little games like, oh my gosh, Ilhan Omar said something mean. We need to pass a speech law. And everyone's like, oh yeah, it's like, wait, what? Or the Muslims in Iraq did something bad, or Saddam, let's pass the Patriot Act. We're going to spy on them. And then they end up spying on you. It's easy to fool both sides, unfortunately. And I love that statement from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I thought that was brilliant. With that being said, does he have a chance? Probably not, because he's not running in an open forum. If he runs next election, when Democrats are out of office, hopefully, and actually gets on the debate stage, I think RFK Jr. has somewhat of a chance, but still it's tough because most of his supporters, I would think, are right-wing at this point because left-wingers are so brainwashed and weird. No offense. So he's running against Biden when Biden's already the president. I don't think he really has a chance, but I do hope that he can leverage his run to throw a wrench in the establishment to get these important topics on the debate stage if he can. If they're not going to give him a debate stage, which is likely, maybe they'll have him on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, and he could spread the message of how the vaccine industry works. I love the fact that he's running, but I just don't think he has a chance. His best chance to win would be running in an election where Democrats aren't already the incumbent, so then he could get on more debate stages. So I don't think he has a chance. I like RFK Jr. I appreciate him. And him throwing his hat in the race and getting his statements out there is a net win for America because he seems like a really authentic guy. And for those who don't know, his voice, he has some sort of disease or issue. So everyone's like, I can't hear him. Something's wrong with his voice, obviously. So I forget what it is. I can't really say. But, you know, try to be a little respectful because he's not doing that because he can't talk loud. Like, he literally can't do it. So, you know, the fact that he has such a great voice, yet his voice is kind of, you know, clothed or put down is quite the, you know, quite the statement and the symbolism in itself. I want to talk about second, Thomas Massie has endorsed Ron DeSantis. I read it the other day, so I'm not going to reread it, but basically DeSantis hasn't even run for president yet, technically, but basically Massie put out a statement saying, I want you to run and, you know, you should run. And I feel like he basically said something along the lines of DeSantis makes better choices of hiring. And, you know, a lot of Republicans, at least on Twitter, I don't know, in the real world, I'm starting to get confused. A lot of people like Trump, obviously. A lot of people like DeSantis, obviously. But the Republican influencers just seem like they're painting this picture that this is how everyone feels. And I feel like they're getting lobbied or basically bought off to the extent of like, I'm like, do people really feel like that? Maybe. But I'm losing touch. I'm not going to say with reality where I'm like, I'm reading all these comments and people are calling Thomas Massie a rhino. Oh, he's a rhino because he's endorsing DeSantis. Thomas Massie's not a rhino. I mean, he's a libertarian conservative, but he's the best person we have in Congress. He's the most honest. He was the only one standing up against the CARES Act. He was the only one saying that it was a constitutional crisis. He's one of the only ones who talks about raw milk and farming and having grass, like actual cattle and not all this GMO nonsense. Thomas Massie's the best we have. And just because he disagrees with Donald Trump, it doesn't mean he's a rhino. Chip Roy's a rhino. Thomas Massie's a rhino. This party's turning into the Trump party. If, you know, if DeSantis infringes on the First Amendment, let's talk about it. If Trump does it, it didn't happen. He's not responsible for anyone he hires. Anybody who disagrees with him is a rhino. It's turning into a clown movement and a clown party because you don't have to agree with his endorsement, but Thomas Massie is not a rhino. I want to hold this up to the screen and show you this because a lot of people say, well, you know, Anomaly or Thomas Massie, they're quarterback. What is it called? Monday morning, Tuesday morning quarterbacks. It's like they're Monday morning quarterbacks. Like they're just saying that now. I want to show you that Thomas Massie is not a Monday morning quarterback. He was saying it then. So let's not distort history and act like he knows the truth about the lockdowns now. This is his tweet when they were doing the CARES Act. Thomas Massie correctly said, the stimulus package that just passed is the biggest wealth transfer from common folks to the super rich Wall Street and bankers in the history of mankind, done in the name of a virus with $1,200 checks as the cheese in the trap. This will be obvious in short order. So Thomas Massie was one of the only, if not the only, Republican politician warning the CARES Act is going to be the biggest mistake in modern history. It's a multi-trillion-dollar socialist communist scam bill. It's giving money to bankers and corporations. It's doling out money for big pharma. I almost said big farmers. I wish they gave money to big farmers instead of big pharma. There's something there. Maybe I'll make a shirt like that. Big farmers greater than big pharma. I think that's my next shirt. But anyway, we all saw this coming. And I want to read this too because he actually responded to me on Twitter. I thought it was interesting. I'm just going to see that's me and that's Thomas responding. I'll just read it. I said, Thomas Massie is the only person in Washington to accurately reject the CARES Act and predict the massive mistake that Republicans were making. There are right-wing NPCs who are just as programmable and basic as left-wingers. And then this was Massie's response. He said, the 2020 CARES Act didn't just wreck the economy, it cost Trump the election. It funded shutdowns into November, fueled panic, and set the precedent that made the mail-in election inevitable. Republicans in Congress argued it was too dangerous for them to vote in person. I'm glad Thomas saw my tweet and responded to me, but this is the truth of what I'm trying to explain over the last couple of years that is falling on deaf ears because 90%, 99% of Republican influencers and news analysts, they're all lying to you. Just like when the left wing lies to you in unison and they tell you all this stuff, a million lies doesn't make something true. The Democrats can fool hundreds of millions of people. They can abuse children. They can try to psychologically manipulate 8-year-olds. It's evil, but it doesn't make it right. And it doesn't make it true. It doesn't matter how much, commercials they put it on or how many award shows they do it on. The truth is the truth. And no amount of lying makes a lie the truth and the truth a lie. The truth is that only me, Thomas Massie, and a select few want to tell you is Trump is not the victim of the 2020 election. With the CARES Act, he funded lockdowns into November. He signed off on all this stuff, from ventilators to testing. How do you think they did all this? With emergencies that the pharmacy lobbyists that Donald Trump hired declared, with the Operation Warp Speed socialist scam that Donald Trump proudly signed off on for his Bill Gates style friends like Moncrief, whatever his name was, the head of it. It was just some pharma shill. Trump surrounded himself by pharma shills, by the way. He gave Big Pharma the keys to the castle in the government. But with the CARES Act, not only was it a socialist communist scam for corporations, not you, and a little $1,600, $1,200 universal basic income commie check that he gave everybody with his name on it, but it also funded the lockdowns. How do you think Democrats had the money to do all this stuff? They got government money that Trump signed off on. He's not the victim of the 2020 election. It's like he digs himself in a hole and then he cries and fundraises off of how he got there. If you didn't want the election to be the mass mail-in ballot election, maybe you shouldn't have paved the way with it with the CARES Act. Thomas Massie is one of the only ones who will admit that. So Candace Owens interestingly said she thinks Thomas Massie should be president, and this isn't the first time that that Candace has said something like that. She said when she runs for president, she's going to have Thomas Massie as her vice president. Interesting stuff. I mean, that says a lot about Candace in a good way. A lot of people have a lot of opinions about Candace. She does this, she does that. She talks about, I mean, the fact that she likes Thomas Massie that much, to me, shows that she's got a soul. With that being said, his endorsement, will it change the election? I don't know. I think Thomas Massie has earned a lot of respect over the last couple years. So I think there will be a lot of people that value that. But I don't know how much impact it's going to have on the election. I'll say this too. When it came to the CARES Act, Thomas Massie, I played the clip at the beginning. He was trying to say that Congress didn't want to vote on it in person, and they were basically breaking the Constitution. I guess according to the rules that they all sign up to and the oath that they all take, they're supposed to be there to vote for it, and they're supposed to, I believe, document every single vote that they have. Because COVID-19 was going on, they wanted everyone to go home, and they were voting on the CARES Act, which was the biggest bill, I think, at the time, like a multi-trillion-dollar spending bill for COVID. It's the scammiest bill in modern history, in my opinion, that Republicans love. They brag about it still. Tim Scott brags about it. They're such a phony party. I can't believe people are so into like the fake WWE plot that they think Republicans are actually fighting socialism. They passed the biggest socialist bill and they still brag about it to this day. They don't care. Just like Donald Trump on Newsmax being like, the vaccine's so great. It's like they literally just crap in your face and you say it's chocolate. You're like, thanks for the chocolate. It's pathetic. This country will get what it deserves if people are this weak and foolish. But in general, Thomas Massie was trying to explain, why aren't we going to vote on this, and why aren't we going to keep a tally of who voted yes and who voted no? This isn't a small bill. This is like the biggest, most influential bill in modern history, and everyone's going to go home and vote by proxy or whatever, or not be there. So Massie was saying, I understand this is going to pass, but if you're going to send workers into, grocery stores, and you're going to make gas station attendants work and all these essential workers and hospital workers, we're essential too. You know what I'm saying? If they could put their lives on the line, so could we, to do our job and follow the Constitution. And when Thomas Massie said that to try to actually do his job, Donald Trump bashed him, according to him on Timcast, called him and said, I'm more popular than you in Kentucky. You're over. He tweeted and said he's a grandstander. He's a third-rate Republican. He needs to be kicked out of the Republican Party. So this is who Donald Trump is, in my opinion. If you actually tell the truth about socialism, communism, try to block a spending bill that's going to lead to inflation and destroy his chances at presidency, he'll try to kick you out of the party because he's just mad. He's just like, get out of my way. I want to do this. I want to do the CARES Act. Well, then don't complain about the election, because the CARES Act sabotaged your entire election. But that's Trump's entire grift at this point. It's like, I'm a victim. I'm a victim, everybody. Give me your money. I'm a victim. Nothing I do matters. I'm responsible for nothing I do. I hire bad people, but it's not my fault. It's theirs. I do the same things I accuse DeSantis of, but it's not me. It's him. I even see a lot of right-wing people that I like They're posting pictures of DeSantis kissing the Israel wall and being like, this is why Trump's going to be the president. You know how many pictures there are of Trump kissing the Israeli wall? Like, are people delusional? Are they being paid to do this? Are they just phonies? Like, I don't know. Trump kisses the wall and DeSantis kisses the wall. Trump passes speech laws for Israel and DeSantis passes speech laws for Israel. Trump takes donor money from Sheldon Adelson and DeSantis takes donor money from individuals who care about that stuff. Like, just tell the truth about it. They both do. You could make a point to say that you think Trump is less sold out than DeSantis, but if you're just posting a picture of DeSantis kissing the Israel wall and be like, yeah, that's why Trump's going to win, why don't you also post the picture of Trump kissing the wall? Like, this is the level that most influencers are operating on. They're total phonies. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, you're going to act like Trump isn't the most pro-Israel president ever, and only DeSantis is, and only he's kissed the wall with a yarmulke on his head? No, Trump's done the same thing. Just be honest about it. That's why I stand out, and that's why I'm going to stand the test of time, because I'm the real deal. I'm not out here just like being an idiot, being a liar, it's very strange. With that being said, I like Thomas Massie, and it's interesting that he's throwing his weight behind DeSantis. I'm not endorsing anybody. I want to see how the next year turns out. I'm not sitting on the fence. It's just, to me, it's like a year is going to go by. DeSantis didn't even say he's going to run. I don't know if Rand Paul's going to run. I want to watch the debates. I want to see how DeSantis responds, because he hasn't even really jabbed back at Trump hard yet. Like, I want to see what he says. I want to see who looks like they're going to grow. I want to see who's going to hire a better cabinet, because in my opinion, Trump is terrible at hiring. And if he gets better, then I would consider voting for him over DeSantis. But if he's just headstrong and he's just going to pay a bunch of influencers to act like psychos, I'm not interested. You know what I'm saying? And Trump is very smart. DeSantis is smart too in his own way, but Trump is very smart at lobbying your favorite influencers. Like, I want to just go over something that happened recently yesterday. The Nelk Boys, I talk about them sometimes because they do pretty good work. They're like one of the biggest podcasts in the world. The Nelk Boys have a younger demographic. Like, they're one of the only Republican-leaning audiences that actually reaches the youth. So they're the most important, in my opinion. Like, you might not have even heard of the Nelk Boys, but when it comes to conservative influencers that reach people that are like 15 to 25, they're probably the biggest. And Don Jr. went on their show yesterday because they're friends with Don Jr. And he's like, I'm going to expose DeSantis. And basically now he's telling their whole audience that DeSantis is sold out, but Trump's so great and such a victim. And, and all those people are going to believe it because, no offense, I don't think it's like the most high information people listening to that podcast. I'm not saying they're dumb. I'm just saying it's not like a very political show always. They talk about other stuff. So it's like, that's a very smart move. Don Jr. is very likable. He's hitting these demographics. Trump invites all these influencers to Mar-a-Lago. They all know the truth. Behind closed doors, they tell me the truth. But in person and on their Instagram, they can't ever tell the truth about anything because they have to go to Mar-a-Lago dinners because they're politicians now. Most of your favorite influencers, they're politicians. They're professional donor suckers. They're professional. I don't even care about the first two amendments if it's going to take food off my plate. I don't respect a lot of these people anymore, but that's all good. I don't have to. So, I see the way he's operating to, oops, I hit a button. I don't know what I did. I see the way he's operating. It's very smart. You got to get the media on your side. You got to get the influencers on your side. And the funniest part about DeSantis and Trump to me is that there are people that are working directly with the DeSantis campaign, and there are people that are working directly with the Trump campaign. And these people just fight on Twitter all the time. It's hilarious. This is why I believe in just being yourself, because the people on the left attract the people on the right. And the people that are cringe on the left, they just fight with the people that are, it's like a magnet. So now you have the people being paid by DeSantis fighting all day on Twitter with the people being paid by Trump. And the Trump people that are being paid off and they're being lobbied, they're like, you're a paid operative. And they're like, no, you're a paid operative. And it's like, you're both paid operatives and you're arguing like you're both hypocrites. If you're a paid operative, shouldn't you not just yell at everyone that's a paid operative? You get what I'm saying? It's like, it makes no sense. Like, you have paid Trump operatives yelling at paid DeSantis operatives, and they both think they both look stupid, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who our audience is for that, but it's like, if you were a paid operative, maybe you shouldn't yell at other ones who are. Someone said spy versus spy. Yeah, it's like clown world. You know, I don't really care that much, but it's interesting. Anyway, Thomas Massie, honestly, I like him more than Trump. I trust him more than Trump. He isn't a Monday morning quarterback. He was there and telling the truth when it actually mattered. He never became a socialist. He doesn't lie all the time about the vaccine. I like Thomas Massie. He's not running for president. His endorsement, I'm not going to say it really sways me, but it tells me that maybe DeSantis is more likely to hire someone like a Thomas Massie in their cabinet. And that's what I want, a cabinet of people like Thomas, a cabinet of outsiders, a cabinet of people like Joseph Ladapo. I don't want a cabinet of Sebastian Gorkas and a cabinet of like Rick Grinnells and Mike Pompeos. That's not what I'm interested in. So I'm endorsing nobody. I'm supporting nobody. But in my opinion, we'll see how it plays out. Definitely interesting to see one of my favorite politicians endorsing DeSantis. Next thing I want to talk about is two people that are catfighting with each other. I mean, I don't have to talk about this, but I think it's kind of funny. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer are like fighting hysterically on Twitter. I have to say this as a disclaimer. I've met Laura Loomer years ago at an event. She's always been nice to me. I have no issues with Laura Loomer. We got along in person, and I don't agree with everything she's saying right now, and I'm sure she doesn't agree with everything I'm saying, and I'm fine with that. Same with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I've met Marjorie at an event. She said, Anomaly, I've watched you for years. She seemed to be like a supporter of some sort, or, you know, she was aware of the work I do. I enjoyed talking to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was super down to earth and cool to me. I like Laura and I like Marjorie Taylor Greene as people, and I'm not going to personally attack either of them because I don't want to. With that being said, they're going crazy hard at each other, and I'm just going to read their two tweets before I weigh in on it. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, well, let me preface this real quick. Apparently, Trump is looking to hire Laura Loomer, or New York Times reported that, you know, the Trump campaign is going to like pay or hire Laura Loomer to work with them. So that's where this is all coming from, because it looks like the Trump campaign is about to hire Laura Loomer. Now, I don't know if they're going to hire Laura Loomer to work on their campaign and be in their cabinet, or if they're just hiring Laura Loomer as like a professional influencer and just paying her to support Trump. I'm not sure. Laura can speak for herself, but that is the story that came out on Twitter or on New York Times. So here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, Laura Loomer is mentally unstable and a documented liar. She cannot be trusted. She spent months lying about me and attacking me just because I supported Kevin McCarthy for Speaker, and after I had refused to endorse her last election cycle. She loves the alleged FBI informant and weirdo Nick Fuentes. She tried to get hired on the Ye campaign after the infamous Mar-a-Lago dinner, but Kanye West refused to hire her, so now she's running to Trump. Never hire or do business with a liar. Liars are toxic and poisonous to everything they touch. Laura Loomer fired back and she said, Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the only liar is you. You hired the Ford National who set up the dinner at Mar-a-Lago, and you spoke at AFPAC where you were more than happy to embrace Nick Fuentes. Ye asked me to work on his campaign, and I said no because I told him I endorsed Donald Trump, but I support his right to free speech. You are a liar. You have a British foreign national who openly attacks President Trump every day working for you and living in Rome, Georgia. I have the receipts. I have screenshots of you telling me that you want me in Congress and that you were going to endorse me. You only changed your mind once you made deals with McCarthy. You're a disloyal liar, and you're working with somebody who said he wanted to make Trump miserable by setting him up at Mar-a-Lago. Here you are on video, in case I need to refresh your memory, and I believe she had a video of Marjorie, like, showing love to her. Like I said, I mean, I do like both of them as people. I've met both of them. I've chatted with both of them. They've both been nice to me in person. It's like a catfight of two women who both really like Trump. Like, in my opinion, from the outside, Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, loves Donald Trump, will never, you know, like, she's just, like, all in with Trump. She's on the Trump train. That's who she is. Laura Loomer, very similar. She's already endorsed Donald Trump. She's all in on the Trump train, and she just, you know, is, like, going crazy hard at DeSantis. It's like a catfight for Donald Trump. who's going to win is, it's like, I want Daddy Trump's attention. No, I want it. It's who's Daddy Trump going to pick? Is he going to pick Marjorie or Laura Loomer? I don't know. I'm not a politician. Marjorie is. I don't know what Laura's doing. I guess endorsing Trump, maybe working with them. That's not my lane. It's just a cat fight. I don't know. I don't really have much to really weigh in on it. It's just like things get ugly. It's like it's like they should film a world. I would like to see both of them box, and I'm not into violence, obviously. Like, violence is bad, but I do like mixed martial arts. And, it would be fun to watch Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer box. Obviously, it would have to be consensual. We'd have to schedule some sort of event. I would love to be the host, It's like, let's stop arguing. You like Trump, you like Trump. You're kind of wild, you're kind of wild. They're very similar. They're both kind of like loose cannon, wild vibes. I think we need to settle this once and for all with a boxing match. What do you guys think? I would enjoy that quite thoroughly, but it's not up to me. Let me know what you guys think. It's just interesting to see what Trump's going to do, because I know he likes Laura and he likes Marjorie, and they're going wild at each other, They're like wild. Like, I bet Trump's like, what do I do? I like Marjorie. And I like Laura Loomer. Which one do I choose? Can I pick them both? I don't think so. Someone said I'm rooting for Laura, said Teeny Dakini. Someone said stage catfight distraction as usual. I don't think it's staged, but I mean, who knows? But I don't think it's staged. I just think they're both like very similar. I'm a firm believer, and this is where I'm kind of like a hippie. I'm a Christian. I have a Golden Girls shirt on. This is not for sale, but shout out to the Golden Girls, When Trump said make America great again, I feel like he was talking about the Golden Girls, That's what I'm thinking in my head. Power Rangers, Golden Girls, what I'm saying? Price is Right with Bob Barker. And then I got a lockdown and vaccines instead. I was like, dang it. I thought we were going to make America great again. Where are the Golden Girls reruns? Instead, I got Pfizer trying to terrorize me in my own country. But whatever. With that being said, I'm a firm believer in mindset, ambition, and I'm going to get on my Gary V type, Tony Robbins vibe right now. The world is filled with so much opportunity, even now, right? I've seen so many people take it from here to here in their careers by having ambition and confidence and being grateful. The world opens up, in my opinion. When you have these skills, even me, I do well. I'm running my business. When I see people that are doing good stuff, I want to work with them, right? I'm just looking for people with ambition. I'm looking for people that do a good job, that are reasonable, that have good energy, good attitudes. Every boss is, right? So the world is your oyster. You can make anything of it. With that being said, I do believe in certain laws of manifestation, where if you want to go get it, you can get it, but you got to think it and you got to, work towards it. And with that being said, in politics, this is why I don't want to fight with people. I'm not a fence sitter. I'll tell you exactly what I think about the topic every time. I'm not sitting on a fence, but sometimes people want me to fight every battle, and I don't feel that I'm called to fight every battle. Some people are. But with that being said, you got to understand, like, I do think that the world is like a magnet. So I think the annoying people on the left wing are very similar to the annoying people on the right wing. And I feel like they just gravitate towards each other and yell at each other. And I do agree with right-wingers on more topics. I mean, what the left-wingers are doing to the kids is insane. Not only are you teaching gay stuff to like 5 and 6-year-olds, which is psychotic because they're still developing, but you're trying to change their gender, which is like even more psychotic. Like, you got to stop. But with that being said, it's like I pick and choose my battles, not because I want to sit and watch. I'm not called to fight with psychos. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's like the left-wing psycho, the right-wing psycho, and then they yell at each other on Twitter all the time. And like 90% of the population is like, can we be adults in the room? Can we talk about the currency? Can we be reasonable about this? And I just feel like energies attract each other, right? If you're this type of person, you attract this type of person. With that being said, with Laura and Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have to see the similarities. I'm not saying they're the same person with the same ethics. They're different people. But they have the same energy. They're both very fiery. They're both very feisty. They're both very, you know what I'm saying? They're both very they're not shy. They're not reserved. They're ready to attack. So I feel like the energy of the world just brought them together, and it's like, okay, you guys fight now. It's like the perfect argument because they're both very similar in energy. They're both very feisty, in your face, unapologetic, and I want to see them box. That's all I'm going to say. So Laura, Marjorie, you know, we've talked. If you want to, I'm not saying you have to do this because politics and debate is fine, but it's getting ugly out there. Consider a boxing match, both training. It would be interesting. That's all I'm saying. Same with like Trump and Biden. Like, I get it. Like, I'm going to fix the economy. No, you're not. I'm going to stop printing money. No, you're not. I'm going to fight big pharma. No, you're not. Just put on some gloves. You know, Trump and Biden, don't you want to see a boxing match? And then people will be like, damn, they look old. You know, that's when it'll register to people. They'll be like, damn, they look really old out there. They are old. They're both almost 80 years old, or they are 80 years old. I don't even know. Yeah, they're old. So they can't even do that. MG, I'm not, but you want to just super chat and lie, so I'm not even going to read it, but that's not true. Someone said that would be sick. Two old dudes out of shape boxing. It's just like, it's just time. It's just time for like backyard boxing matches, you know, consensual, refereed properly. I'm just tired of like, you did this, you did this. Like, okay, let's have a good old fashioned boxing match. How do I find you on Twitter? Kara, my thing is Legendary Energy on Twitter. You could check it out there. Someone said, LOL, I'll fight. I'm getting old, but I'm fast and hit like a mule kicking and I'm smart. Well, it sounds like you got the brains to do it. Someone said, Trump retire. Someone said, let them duke it out. I'll read a few comments, but I do want to keep this under, I would say, 50 minutes. So I'll stay for 10 minutes. Thank you guys for being here. And yes, sir. Let's see. If only RFK didn't have voice problems, he would have been a wonderful president. I mean, I don't think it disqualifies him. It's just an uphill battle with his voice. But, you know, I don't think he's like out of the race just because he has a voice problem. You think so? It's definitely hard for people to understand him, but let me see. I just blocked somebody. I'm going to read some other comments, but yeah, I don't want to stay for an hour. I'm going to keep this under 50 minutes, but I just blocked someone because he's been super chatting for the last week saying, thank you, Richard Wayne, that's saying I'm an operative for a person that I'm not. I'm telling people the truth. I have certain friends or certain people I talk to. Certain people, they're just, I don't know how you'd say it, peers. You know what I'm saying? I've met a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people. I'm not working for anybody. I've talked to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't work for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I had a 10-minute conversation with her. Laura Loomer, I met her years ago. She's been nice to me. He was mentioning Ali. I don't work for Ali. So you could lie all you want, but I'm blocking you because you've done it like 30 times. I don't work for anybody. I've talked to people. I've spoken to people. I've hosted them on my podcast, but that's not how it works. I don't work for other people. I'm my own boss. I make my own decisions. I disagree. I mean, you could look at my Twitter. Me and Ali disagree quite often about a lot of stuff, but same with Laura. I mean, Laura hates DeSantis, loves Trump, and that's her whole vibe. That's not my vibe. I don't see things the same, but I'm certainly not working with people that we don't even agree on certain stuff, but I'm also not, you know, everybody has the freedom of speech. You're allowed to think what you want and say what you want. I'm not looking for other people to be me. You know, that's not what I'm looking for. It's like, you have to be me. Everyone's themselves. I can only control what I do and what I say. So, you know, I don't really worry that much about other people. I just talk about it when I want to. Someone said yes for Dr. Shiva. We were supposed to talk a while ago, but I don't know. Shiva just kept trying to like get me to go to one of his courses or something. I was like, bro, I'll talk. We'll have a podcast, but I don't want to like, I was like, what's the solution? He was like, the solution is to go to my, you know, my course. I'm like, I don't know. I can't go. I don't have time today or the other day. But I like Shiva. We've always got along. Someone said RFK Jr.'s voice is a non-issue. I could understand him, and I think it adds intrigue. I don't think that's why he's not going to win this election. I just think he's running against an incumbent, and they're not even going to, give him that much opportunity. Has anyone ever like primaried an incumbent from the same side and won? I don't know. Someone said I'm still manifesting on that Ye and Roseanne 2024. That would be funny, but I think Roseanne is all in the bag for Trump. I don't think, Roseanne's she's going full Trump, it seems like. So does Anomaly like Thomas Massie or not? I do like Thomas Massie, yeah. I like him a lot. I'd love to have him on the show. He just never answers me. He follows me, but he doesn't answer. So I'd love to have Thomas Massie on the show. He's one of my favorites in Congress, but I'm my own person. He's his own person. So, he's endorsing DeSantis. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not a politician. I'm not working for PACs, and he's got some the same way Trump has like Save America PAC. I think Massie works with some sort of group. He's a politician. I'm not, though. I'm not saying he's a bad one. I think Thomas Massie's a good one. It's just my job is to analyze and do journalism. And I'll end on this note because I started on it, so I think it would be full circle. I think it's okay for people to be themselves. I'm not going to pressure people into being me, but a lot of people think that they're following journalists when they're following these right-wing influencers. But we've talked about this for years. You don't know how many times behind closed doors off of Instagram, they're telling me, oh, you're right about the First Amendment. You're right about that. You're right about this. But they don't want to say it publicly because they're politicians. You know what I'm saying? They're fronting like, oh, I'm just a normal American, just like you, selling merch. And listen, sell the merch, make your money. Obviously, that's a good way to make income, and you don't have to work for someone else. But a lot of these people, they're acting like they're just Americans telling the truth and disseminating news, but they become professional, like Trump in the bag propagandists to a sense, where like, if Hillary Clinton does Operation Warp Speed, they'll report on it. If DeSantis does this, they'll report on it. But when Donald Trump does it, they can't talk about it because they're friends with Donald Trump. They hang out with his son, and they don't want to like ruin their seat at the table. They're professional operatives at this point. So, behind closed doors, a lot of people are like, oh, no, I see that. Yeah. But then in person, they'll never post on it. You get what I'm saying? If Fauci is on stage with Klaus Schwab, they'll post it on their Instagram. If Biden's on stage with Klaus Schwab, they'll post it on their Instagram. If DeSantis is on stage with Klaus Schwab, they'll post it on their Instagram. But if Trump's on stage with Klaus Schwab saying you're doing a great job, all of a sudden they won't post that. You get what I'm saying? They're not journalists or news analysts. They're not willing to speak about everything. So that's really all I'm trying to say is, just consider that depending who you're following. Everybody is entitled to do what they want. You could be a politician. You could be a professional campaign person. You could work for a campaign. You could join. A lot of people move to DC and they say, I want to join politics. I want to be a person. Like, that's a good job. If you're looking for money and you're looking for purpose, it's a good job to go to Washington and work for somebody. But, I think a lot of people are getting this info and then it's like, that's just where I'm at. I'm not working for anybody. I'm not endorsing anybody. And I'm able to speak freely about whatever happens with Ye, with Trump, with DeSantis, with RFK. I have the flexibility and the freedom to basically say, I agree with that, but I don't agree with that. Or I like that and I don't agree with that. And this is the real point I want to make before I leave. To me, that's the only way this stuff works. I don't think becoming a politician would make things work. Like, oh, it was the left, it was the right, I don't want to call out my guy. That's the whole thing. It's like the right falls for the Patriot Act, the left falls for Obama, then the right falls for the Operation Warp Speed, and then the left man. It's this ping pong game, and the whole reason that nothing ever gets done is because instead of getting to the source of what's going on, people just look at the characters that really have no power. So they always give you someone that makes you feel like they're doing something. Like it's George Bush fighting the Muslims. It's Obama, he's an outsider. It's Trump, he's an outsider. It's Biden, he's not Trump. It's going to be Trump again, or DeSantis. I'm just saying, for conservatives, especially these like citizen journalists who've accumulated a lot of, clout and I would say influence, I think the only way we actually win is when we stand firm with our values. And that's why I'm trying to explain, if I stand firm with my values and say, I don't agree with vaccine socialism. I don't agree with vaccine socialism if Trump does it. I don't agree if Thomas Massie did it. I don't agree if DeSantis did it. I don't agree if Democrats did it. I don't agree with socialism or vaccine socialism, because when you give $16 billion to the vaccine industry and you buy their doses, that's socialism. That's what Republicans did during Trump's administration, proudly, by the way. I'm not a fence sitter. That doesn't make me a fence sitter. I'm one of the only honest ones. Everybody else agrees with me. They just don't want to say it because they like the guy more than the policy and the value. What does it mean if you have no morals or whatever? You know, it's like that. I would like. There's something that happened in Tennessee real quick. A bunch of Democrats like grandstanded, probably did something illegal, took over the microphone, and then the Tennessee legislator kicked them out. Here's all I'll say. I have no problem with them kicking him out, but if most people don't actually believe anything, they're just playing team politics. Like, if the left wing kicked out right wingers, all these left wingers that are complaining, oh my God, that's fascism, they would support it if they were kicking out right wingers. All these right wingers that are saying, oh my God, that's so great, we kicked him out. If the tables were turned and Democrats did the same thing to Republicans over that, they'd all be crying. That's why I consider most people NPCs. They're clones. They're just, a step below like ChatGPT at this point. They're like, they have no real stances. Like, they can't look at a thing and be like, no, this is what I believe and why. And even if Republicans did the same thing, I'd agree with it. Everybody's just a team player. So that's why when it comes to like vaccine socialism or the CARES Act, if Hillary did those things, everybody would agree with me. Everyone would be like, no, that's communism. That's socialism. That screwed over the election. That funded the lockdowns till November. That gave way too much power to Big Pharma. Everyone would agree with me. But because the guy who did it is their guy, all of a sudden they don't have any values. It's only excuses or made up theories that don't make sense because they have to justify why they won't say anything about it on their pages. So I just wanted to be clear about that. Not that I have to explain myself, but it's a podcast and we just talk out loud. I'm not fence sitting. It's not fence sitting to say, I believe in the First Amendment and that's my line in the sand. Or say you're a gun owner and you agree with the Second Amendment. And when Trump does a bump stock thing or starts talking about red flag laws, like people like Dan Crenshaw, and you just say, this is my line in the sand, that doesn't make you a fence sitter. That means you actually believe in the Second Amendment. That means you actually believe in the First Amendment. That's a good thing. We don't need Republicans who just lick dirt off Trump's shoes. We need a bunch of Second Amendment supporters who actually believe in the Second Amendment. If everybody came together and said, this is my actual line in the sand, no one could take that from you. Not Trump, not Biden, nobody. But this is the problem with politics, is they always manipulate people and basically change their perception based on character plots. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's the villain, here's the hero, here's the Muslim, here's the war, here's the Ukraine guy, here's Mark Levin, here's Sean Hannity, here's Donald Trump. And then people, all of a sudden, they don't have any values anymore. It's like, well, Operation Warp Speed wasn't that bad. Like, it absolutely was that bad. It's socialism. You don't agree with socialism, right? No, I don't. But that's socialism. No, well, I mean, he had to do it. Like, people are such phonies, because they're being manipulated by these kind of plots and twists. And that's my stance, just to be clear. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing is not to just sit there and say, I'm letting it all play out, but my job for what I do and what I think every American should do is stand true to your values. And when you stand true to your values and you use your influence not to get a dinner with Donald Trump and just sit there and tell him how great he is, but to have a conversation and be like, hey, I'm sorry, Donald Trump. Like, if I had dinner with Donald Trump, I would be like, listen, you've done a lot of cool stuff. I would be nice. Donald Trump's a cool guy, but I'm not going to sit and just be like, yeah, that's so amazing. Like, if Operation Warp Speed came up, I'd be like, I think Operation Warp Speed was socialism. You gave $16 billion to the vaccine industry and you bought it. I think it's terrible. Every aspect of it, not just the mandates. I think it's terrible. I think it's a scam. I think it's socialism. I think it's tyrannical. I think you paved the way for all this stuff. And I find it completely ridiculous that you're still lying about the product because it's like a Trump steak to you because you're the father of the program. These are things that I would say. I like everyone else, like their tongues come out like they're dogs and they're like, yeah, it's great now. Like, they don't actually believe anything. So I'm just making it clear. The real fence sitters are the ones who change their entire perception based on getting lobbied into like a political movement over the values. And Americans, constitutionalists, whatever you want to call yourself, things will change when the people at the top, including the politicians, they know that Right now, the Republicans know that people will cave on certain things. Like, you give them this guy and they'll cave. They won't really care. They know that. So there's no real, even the way Trump's been acting now, I don't think he's necessarily a worse choice than DeSantis. I mean, honestly, in many ways, I do think he is. But if he were to win, yeah, I'll vote for him over Biden. But I want to see him learning and hiring new people and like realizing where he slipped up. To me, he doesn't see, like, he seems like somebody that's like, get out of my way. If Thomas Massie's in my way, destroy him. If DeSantis is in my way, destroy him, destroy him, destroy him. But it doesn't feel, to me at least, like he's destroying them to do the right thing. It's just like anybody who tells the truth about certain things or outdoes me on certain things needs to be obliterated so I can just run the clown show and everybody will watch me. And I'm like, I'd rather him be like, no, I'm going to hire better. I'm going to do this better. I realized that doing socialism was a mistake. These are things that I look for, but I'm only one vote, and it's going to be a long year. So I just want people to, use their voice, whether they go to TPUSA or a Prager event or a Daily Wire event or a Trump event. Start having these conversations, start challenging each other, and understand that there's a lot of lobbying money going around. There's a lot of donor money, and politicians are brilliant at acting like they're just like you. That's why they get paid the big bucks. That's why they get to those positions. That's why they're able to network themselves to that position, because they're good at telling you that they agree with you, but then they'll go back and be like, yeah, well, I'll do a $200 million deal with you. And then I'll go tell them that like, it's not for that reason. It's for this reason. Like it's master manipulation, and everybody's doing it. I'm not saying it's one person, but when people wake up to that, I think a lot of progress will be had. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. Have a beautiful day, and I'll be back soon. Thanks for hanging out, and have a good weekend. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk. For $5 a month, you can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description, or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying, so I don't do it. Stayintouchwithme.com. It helps me take back some power away from big tech. Telegram, t.me/dreamrarechat or @dreamrarechat. Due to censorship, I post all my live stream and videos there. Sometimes I have some bonus content, and I try to give people a heads up when Facebook or YouTube won't. DreamRareChat at Telegram. My Instagram is @DreamRare. Thanks for everybody following there for shorter content. And DreamRareLinks.com, that's DreamRareLinks.com, has all my stuff. My podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, my music on Spotify and Apple, my Rumble page, my BitChute and Gab page. All my links are found at DreamRareLinks.com. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless you. You already know I'll be back with more content soon. Appreciate you.